Welcome to 5 Questions in 5 Minutes, and I'm delighted to have with me today Mark Webster, who has been a Goliath in the advertising industry across 25 years across the Asia Pacific region. Welcome to the interview, Mark, and thank you so much for joining us. Can I just quickly ask you, I'm going to dive straight in because I'm just interested to know, you are currently a non-exec of many things, but one of them is split-second research, which, as I know myself, specializes in the neuroscience side of stuff. But what is it in your 25 years of advertising that you feel would have been different if you'd have had access to this stuff, you know, across that period?
Yeah, I think over those years, Paul, I've spent many an hour sitting in kind of traditional focus groups with our clients. And it's something I've loved. I mean, obviously sitting in a room where people are telling you about your product or your service is kind of really revealing and valuable. But I suppose I kind of always felt there was a bit of a room dynamic going on. It could be, again, culturally, people don't want to stand out, certainly in parts of Asia where I was, and that sort of going with the flow, what other people said. Some people don't want to stand out in the respect of saying something that goes against what everyone else is saying. So you've got this sort of dynamic, and as much as the moderator would try and sort of overcome that, I think also you found that some people just couldn't articulate what they really felt. So I think for me, coming across something like this neuromarketing and the implicit research, which is dealing with the subconscious, I think it's that incredible ability to filter out any bias. And that for me is, I just find fascinating. I think we could have done some great work and good packaging and good brand planning with that kind of insight. And to me, there's no deeper insight than the subconscious.
It's interesting. This isn't one of my 5 questions, but of course that world of focus groups is one I came from myself. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, we regard you as on high in the advertising world. So I'm wondering, from on high, do you feel that non-conscious stuff is now fully accepted and embedded, or is that still an argument to be had?
I think it's becoming more and more accepted. I think you'll still find that there are people who, espouse the traditional methods. I mean, if you think about the major players in research today, they still follow the same methods and ways of researching that they always have done. But I definitely feel this is becoming much more widespread and much more accepted. I think clients are wanting to find out more. I think we're all in that, or many of us are kind of really exploring and learning. But yeah, I think this next generation of marketer is kind of finding this an interesting area. Yeah. And certainly I think, hard to say, Paul, but I think maybe there's certain categories that are more appropriate. And I think something like packaging design, I mean, talking with Eamon and the team, you can get some, what they've found is that some traditional research hadn't revealed what their research showed, which was actually people hate this thing. And whether it was the writing was too small, or like in China, they didn't understand what the English words meant, all these little tiny things which never came out in the traditional research, but it was found by Eamon and his team. And I think that it's that kind of thing which I think, as I say, can prove really valuable.
Yeah, love it. Well, that in a way leads very nicely onto my next question, which was, so you chose, as a retired CEO, you chose split-second research as one of your non-exec roles. What sort of led to that decision? What appealed to you about them as a possible place to take your non-exec skills?
Well, I was introduced to Eamon and Geraldine, two of the co-founders, by mutual friends. And when I met them, it was just fascinating. Eamon in particular, obviously he's a neuroscientist. There's not much he doesn't know about the brain. And for me, I just found it, I mean, so much of it just goes, when he gets talking, straight over my head. But certainly it's really interesting to hear them talk. And clearly they're passionate about this. And this is what struck me. I believe there's a sort of two-way benefit that it's great for me that I can learn something completely new. But I think for split-second research, there's that opportunity to use my experience in running businesses and how do we grow, how do we gain scale, that kind of thing, where both parties can benefit from each other. So yeah, I think it's for me a fascinating area and a really interesting company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And for us, they've added a whole new dimension. It's like, oh, there's a fourth dimension. Great.
Yeah.
So in your experience, would you recommend to CEOs to get involved with startups? And is it a rewarding experience? What's it like? What are the pitfalls? What are the good things about taking your experience on such a grand scale to smaller companies starting out in the world? Well,
yeah, I think it's probably not for everyone, because there are some really challenging dynamics. And I think the number one thing is you've got to work out what it is you're contributing from the earliest stage as possible. If you think about it, startups are by nature young people who are passionate about what they do, and it can be quite tricky to come along and start sort of questioning, why are you doing this, and interfering in a way. So that dynamic has to be kind of resolved. You've got to build trust. There's chemistry involved. There's a whole lot of different aspects. So it's not easy. And I was funny enough talking to someone the other day about how you see this, and are you the Jurgen Klopp that's the coach sitting in the sort of the bunker and shouting out instructions, or are you out there on the pitch trying to score the goal like Mo Salah or something? You know what I mean? It's like and I think for me the two most important things are that you're a mentor and that you're a challenger. And as I say, you need to be able to challenge them, but I think you also, many of the experiences they're going through are things that you've probably had experience of in the past. So I think that's really where you can benefit.
Yeah, lovely. I bet I'll just ask the last two questions, because otherwise I will take up too much of your time. You've worked in Asia for 25 years in all sorts of places and realms, but if you were giving advice to somebody trying to break into the Asian market, especially China, I guess, and particularly as I sense sort of anti-Chinese sentiments brewing, what would be your advice after all that experience?
Yeah, I mean, Asia is obviously a huge territory, and you've got very sophisticated Japan, and then you've got a very kind of new and emerging Myanmar, and sort of everything in between. And China, yes, we all know is a huge market. So I think for anyone looking to come into China, the fundamentals would be the same anywhere. I think you need to do good research. You need split-second research. You need to be doing your anthropology. You need to understand. You need to understand the cultures, because I mean, I don't know if a couple of years ago, Dolce & Gabbana got into really deep trouble by insulting Chinese. I think you can really, it's doing the fundamentals right and well. Chinese consumers value brands that have quality, and that they're prepared to pay a price premium, and against their local brands, which is really much more price sensitive, they really welcome value and quality from the brand. So I think getting the fundamental right in terms of building your brand purpose, that should enshrine everything you do. Why does your brand exist? What's the rationale behind your brand? That is key. And I link it to a samurai sword that's kind of forged over time, honed, and that to me is the real value of brand purpose.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Mark. Last question. What would you say is the greatest achievement in your career, if you could narrow it down to one great achievement?
Wow, I could talk for an hour on this, not a minute, but I suppose beyond the obvious business successes and winning creative awards and stuff like that in my business, it would undoubtedly be setting up a charity to teach children to swim. This has been in the makings for many years. We've done a huge amount of research for over 14 years now. And drowning is the #1 killer of children in emerging countries. We've got setups in Thailand, Vietnam, and Bangladesh now. We've set up a world first drowning research center. We've been studying this for years, and as I say, we have all the empirical proof that drowning kills more children than malaria, cholera, that type of thing. And the simple solution: teach them to swim. That can save lives. We've got a goal to teach 1 million children to swim, and frankly, as an achievement, if I can just say, I think we'll save thousands of lives, but if I can just save one life, that would be great.
Amazing. What's the charity called, Mark?
Oh, the Water Giants.
The Water Giants. Thank you. That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time today. That's incredibly insightful and helpful, and really lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Really enjoyed it, Paul. Thank you.